Hey, I'm back at it. So this video is for Danix Marie, who is my fiance. She happens to live in the Philippines right now, but we'll be here in January if all goes well. And I'm gonna read a few poems and then talk about the behavioral side of mental health. Um, so um, First, I'm gonna read a poem by Bukowski, then I'm gonna read two of mine. Then I'm gonna talk about some behavioral mental health stuff because this is mental health in writing part two. Now, I love this poem. I had boils the size of tomatoes all over me. They stuck a drill into me down at the county hospital, and just as the sun went down every day, there was a man in a nearby ward. He'd start hollering for his friend Joe. Joe, he'd holler. Oh, Joe, 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 come get me, Joe. Joe never came by. I've never heard such mournful sounds. Joe was probably working off a piece of ass or attempting to solve a crossword puzzle. I've always said if you want to find out who your friends are, go to a madhouse or a jail. If you want to find out where love is not, be a perpetual loser. I was very lucky with my boils, being drilled and tortured against the backdrop of the Sierra Madre Mountains while that sun went down. When that sun went down, I knew that what I would do when I finally got that drill in my hands, like I have it now. He'd write books. So that's an interesting one. If you want to find out who your friends are, end up in a madhouse or a psych unit. I've had a lot of friends that don't. I don't know. I don't know. Kind of a loner. Sometimes because I want to be, other times because it's just the way it is. Also, yeah, I hope to have the drill in my hands one day. I've had it tough. Yeah, I've had it real fucking tough. No, but I have. It's been a rough ride, and hopefully I'll have that drill in my hands someday. And also, God, I've been in the psych ward. I've been in the hospital so many fucking times. Not in the psych ward necessarily, but just in general in the hospital, in the ER, just fucking freaking out, going crazy, doing whatever. And yeah, there's people in there. And it's just really sad. Like, I just hear a woman like crying in the next room and like calling out, "Help me! Help me! Help me!" And I'm just like, man, like Jerry, like who are these people? Like who are they? Or like Eleanor Rigby said, that song says. I don't know. It's a good poem. So anyway, my friend messaged me on Facebook yesterday, and he had made a song. If you want to listen to it, just message me or comment, and I'll send it to you. But he had made a song out of one of my poems, and it was so good. And I had no idea he was gonna do that. He had messaged me about working together, but anyway, he made a song in one of my poems, and it's funny because the poem doesn't rhyme. I figured he would pick a rhymer, but and the way he just did the chorus and the refrains and everything was just so perfect. My friend who I played it to called it the perfect breakup ballad, and it's about Mulia. A lot of my poems are, and I'm gonna read you the poem. I can't really play the song, but like I said, if you'd like to hear it, just let me know and I'll send it to you. It's such a good song. This is called Mexico Part 2. I told her I was moving out on Saturday, but she didn't believe me. I had been telling her for months and months that it just wasn't working, that we weren't working. And though it was most definitely true, she didn't want to hear it. But when things go south, like big time south, someone has to be the one to make the right call. So on a Saturday, while she was at work, I packed up all my stuff and left. Then that evening, she came home to a dark, empty apartment. And though I try not to imagine her heartbreak that night, sometimes it's impossible not to, and every time I do, another part of me dies because it's really, really hard to be the one to get left behind, but even harder to be the one that leaves. Have you ever broken up with someone that you really, really, really loved and cared about because it just wasn't working? Some people have, some people haven't. I happen to be in that former group. Um, I'm gonna read another poem, just one more, and then get some behavior stuff. This is the actually he asked me if I wanted him to make some more songs, and I was like, oh, absolutely. So I sent him this one. This is one of my favorite poems that I've ever written. Um, as is Mexico Part Two. It's like I published 595 poems. I've written like 700, so I do have a lot of poems, and I do have some favorites. But this is definitely my top 20. Um, yeah, I just love this poem. It's from Help Wanted. It's called Out West. It's about my friend, who I shall not name. Out West. I didn't even have a picture of my dear mother back at my place, but you had a ton of photos, and we went through all your albums high school, college, elementary, even some naked baby ones. And for an hour or two, the relentless need to always be the center of attention actually subsided. I saw you in pajamas and high heels, in your Catholic school uniform, with your plaid skirt and socks pulled high, even some in nothing at all. I looked at this picture, I pointed at that one. You looked at them both and pointed back. And when I asked for an explanation, without hesitation, you explained. We were in your apartment where I always felt comfortable, but today I felt really comfortable. I felt really decent for a change, because I loved you, and I could tell that you wanted nothing more than to let me in. And with each turn of the page, there were more pictures, more explanations, more of that weird, decent feeling. And we sat close so that our arms touched, ever so lightly, and things back east no longer seemed so far away. So when I first moved to California, before moving, I had a friend, a special friend, and we. I'm gonna read you. This poem's about her too. We just got along. I don't know how else to explain it. And she, I was lonely, out there, and she helped that. And then when she moved, I was even more lonely. Alright, you. I do love her, but sometimes those three words just don't cut it. So I was thinking about other ways to describe her, and I came up with this. No matter how many people I'm surrounded by, I know that in my thoughts and in my heart, I'm alone entirely. But then I'll catch myself wondering, wait a second, maybe not. So that's the best way I can describe her. Poetry. It's art, man. So anyway, I want to talk about behavioral, because that's half the battle. If you're on the right meds, or even if you're on the wrong meds and you're trying to tweak your meds, or even if you're not on any meds at all, and you suspect, like most of us do, man, most of Generation X and even millennials, that they have a mental health issue, especially with like COVID. I know there's a lot of COVID anxiety. I personally don't have any because I choose not to. I've already had a ton of anxiety in my life. I'm not a very anxious person these days. I'm not gonna worry about something I can't control. So, but anyway, I want to talk about structure. So, one of the most things that's important with bipolar is waking up at the same time every day. It's not necessarily about going to bed at the same time every day, but if you wake up at the same time every day, that's a really good habit. And also your first contact of the day. So if you go a couple hours without seeing somebody, that's not usually good. Like you want to get up and you want to have a really positive. The first person that you contact during the day should be a positive experience. So if like you're going straight to work and work is stressful, like that's tough, usually my first contact is my dad, which is pretty mellow most of the time, and it's usually pretty positive, and like I can talk to him and stuff. So it's not necessarily about going to sleep at the same time every night. It's about waking up at the same time every day. But if you wake up at the same time every day, you're probably going to go to sleep at the same time every day. So whether that's like you're sleeping at noon and you're going to bed at 2, or you're sleeping till 8 and you're going to bed at midnight or 11 or 10 even, I tend to get a lot of sleep because I'm on Seroquel, 400 milligrams, and it really helps me sleep, but it kind of knocks me out for the long haul. I can get up after like 8 hours and I'm totally fine, but it does kind of knock me out for a little longer than that. And another thing is about structure. I think working, as long as you're not working like a too stressful of a job, or maybe not a full time job. I know most people have to work a full time job, and I know most people are under the gun, and a lot of my friends have kids, and man, they're doing it, man, and it's really hard. But for someone that has like a serious mental health issue, or we like to call it mental illness, like myself, it's really important to actually work, and I've been out of work for a while. I mean, I'm a substitute teacher. I can work when I want, but that doesn't really work for me. I need, like, when I was in California and I was working at Whole Foods, I was getting up between 5 a.m. and 7 a.m. I used to work the night shift, and I was like a supervisor, and I was like, oh, fuck this. So I wanted to be a buyer. For one of the real reasons I wanted to be a buyer was because of the schedule. It was 6 to 2:30 every day, so I could like get up at 5, have my coffee, get done with work at 2:30, and just have a sense of accomplishment and a sense of structure. Whole Foods wasn't anything. I was just a cog in the machine, but I did have autonomy with the buyer job, so that was nice. But just that structure really helped me, like getting up every day at the same time and getting out of work every day at the same time and kind of like doing the same thing at work, like the predictability. I hate to say it, but like people with my condition, like predictability is like awesome, honestly. Like I'm not the most spontaneous person. Like I don't go on spontaneous road trips or travel because I don't know how I'm going to be feeling from day to day. So predictability and routine is actually really important. Sometimes it does get a little stale, but that's where on the weekends, like I don't need much just to drive to see the leaves change or just for a hike. Like that does me good. I don't need to travel to Thailand like some of my friends do, or Cambodia, like some of my friends do to like get their kicks. But I get my kicks from simple things like cooking a meal or whatever. So anyway, that's one of the behavioral things is structure. Another one is getting outside. I mean, these are all common sense, but like if you're not doing these for yourself, you're not really giving yourself too much of a chance. I know people are busy with their kids and with work, and then COVID sucks and everything, but if you can get outside and get exercise, so if you can combine the two by going for a hike, just even a walk around the block, getting fresh air. Vitamin D is also crucial, especially when we're coming into um, the wintertime with seasonal affective disorder, which I definitely don't have. I just have my regular depression. I don't feel any more depressed in the wintertime. I actually prefer the wintertime than the summertime when it's sometimes really hot. I really hate that. I hate the fact that it gets dark so early. I think everybody does. And next Sunday is actually fall back, so it's gonna be getting dark at like 2:30. No, that's a hyperbole, but 5:30. But I actually like the cold a lot. I thrive in the cold. I don't know. I like to sleep in the cold. I like to cuddle up. I like to be outside in the cold when it's a nice clear day. So I really enjoy the cold. And then exercise, like whether I think the recommended thing is to get like 3 days a week to bring up your heart rate, to exercise like for an hour 3 days a week. But I tend to exercise like 6 days a week, maybe even seven. Sometimes I slack and I don't feel as good, but um, yoga really is great. Like I need vigorous exercise, so it's not like just stretching or just walking. Like I like to walk. That's a mood stabilizer in and of itself, but it doesn't really fulfill my exercise requirement that I need. So what I do nowadays is there is a yoga studio that's open. They can only have a certain amount of people, and they're very very safe. It seems like I'm 6 feet apart from everybody at all times, except for when I pay, which I'm wearing a mask. So I do yoga, like hot yoga, sometimes, and it's up to like 120, 125 degrees. I used to like live off of hot yoga, and it used to make me feel great in my 20s. Now it's a little different. It makes me feel kind of funny, but eventually it makes me feel better. And then I do all levels yoga, which is like a vinyasa flow, which flow is from one posture to the next. It's vigorous enough. I wish the classes were longer. They're only an hour where I go at Karma Yoga in West Springfield, but they're really good enough. So structure, waking up, getting outside, and I think nutrition is really important, but I don't think it's as important as the other three. People have asked me like, "Well, have you changed your diet?" I know you don't, and I have. Like, I've tried for like a week, like to eat really well, and honestly, I don't feel much different. Like I take my meds, I get exercise. Like if I exercise or if I don't, like that makes me feel different from day to day. but what I eat doesn't necessarily do that. Maybe I'm just not doing it for long enough. Maybe I'm still eating the wrong things. I don't know, but like yesterday I had a stomach issue, so I just ate fruit, like literally, and today I just ate fruit again, and I don't feel any better than if I had like a pizza. Honestly, well, if I had a pizza, I'd feel crappy for like an hour, but then it would go away, and I don't know. Diet is not something that's ever really made or break my mood. I maybe I'm doing it wrong though. I know for a lot of people it does help them, but for me it's structure, exercise, and getting outside, and those are the behavioral things that you have to do to give yourself uh, the just give yourself a chance to, if you have a mental illness. Boo! We're all crazy with the mental illnesses things. We'll talk about stigma next time, actually. So I'm done with my behavioral things, writing in mental illness, part two. Part three, we'll talk about stigma, which I have a lot of experience with. But we'll get into next time. Peace and love. Oh, that was weird. Sorry. Yeah, awkward. Awkward.